Well, welcome to Module 3. If you recall, in Module 2, we dealt with what was referred to as the architecture development iteration, looking at the right-hand side of the ADM. And that's really about building out all of our architectures, looking at an as-is, to-be, and a gap analysis. As we move into Module 3, we're now going to be looking at using those assets to design a roadmap or an implementation plan for rolling that architecture out into the business. Well, we're now looking at the architecture transition iteration, which really is a way of planning all of the output coming from our architecture development iteration. So within the architecture transition iteration, if you recall, and this is one of the things that I'm going to drill into quite a bit, is the architecture development method, and really how we've drawn it, and I've shown you this a few times. So where we're at now is down the bottom here. Right, we're in a phase E and a phase F, and this is really the architecture transition iteration. In other words, how do we take all of the assets that we've identified here and basically feed them into this transition iteration and begin to plan for it? And it consists of two phases. Phase E, which is to do with opportunities and solutions, really starts to bring in what is referred to the solution architecture discipline now. You bring your solution architects in place, and you start to identify all of the different solution building blocks that you can apply to your architectural blueprints that you've identified across business, data, application, technology. You then also have that moving across to phase F, which is the migration planning. And this is where you begin to introduce your project management discipline, in which you're looking at time, cost, and effort to realize the blueprints that you've identified. And that makes up the migration planning exercise. So as a method of illustration for this transition phase, just taking our car example a little further, in essence what we have is we have a factory floor that needs to assemble this car. And this floor consists of multiple assembly lines. And what we need to do here is we need to plan and sequence the assembly of this vehicle. And there could be multiple vehicles, not just one. And they could be reusing different components. So there could be different cars reusing the same chassis, for example. And the point here is to sequence it in a way that by the time a completed chassis arrives at one point, a completed engine is ready for it to slot in. Right? And that process of planning that sequencing and what needs to be built when and where and how and by who, that's really what occurs within the transition phase. So one of the techniques that I want to just help you with is actually the gap analysis. And now the gap analysis normally occurs across B, C, and D. There's also aspects of it that occur here. And just a quick overview of how a gap analysis works. So basically what we have is a typical matrix which I've shown you previously. And over here we have our as-is environment, and here we have our to-be environment. And really what that says is, well, either business, data, application, or technology, you can plot any of those domains on here. So for example, if we were to use business functions, and here we would specify, for example, I have the following business functions that sit here. All right, that's my current state, or my as-is. Well, what have I planned for the to-be? Well, I may have A over here, I might have D, I might have F, and those are really what I've got earmarked for my to-be state. And really just having a look at this matrix, you can see, well, over here, right, I have A, and I'm planning to keep A, so there's no change there. B doesn't exist anywhere here, so we can put an X here. What that implies is that B is being done away with. It's one of the components that we're moving away from. Here you can see C. C is the same story. We're not including it in our future state, so it's a goner. Right? And here we've got D, which we've got over here. All right? So there's an overlap, which we're keeping. Maybe there's some modifications that we're doing. Hold on, we've got F here, which is not in existence here in our current state. So what F does down here is that showing the addition of some new type of capability or business function. And really it's a very, very simple matrix to help you build out a gap analysis. And this is really within the opportunities and solutions phase and the migration planning, which you're looking at these types of gap analysis to show, well, what do I do, what gets added, what gets taken away, and how do I plan for the effort to do that. So just extending our gap analysis example to our car analogy. Let's see these as capabilities, current capabilities versus future capabilities. And what I have here is I have a particular capability, and it might be efficiency. Right? And this is one which is actually going to go through some level of maturity increment. What I've got down the bottom here is a capability that I'm actually adding. So let's call that a 4x4 capability. And on the side here with capability C, well, this is something we're getting rid of. So maybe this is an SUV in which we're trying to streamline a little bit. So let's get rid of the luxury capability. So all of these pieces sort of feed out this way into what we refer to as a capability increment plan. And these help us within the migration planning transition identify what pieces we actually want to be able to align and get rid of and add. Right? So you could, for example, build a capability increment model, which could look like this. You could have all of your capabilities down the side here, and you could have sort of a level 1, 2, and 3 maturity. I don't want to go through the full detail of some of the capability maturity models, but basically all that we're doing is we're saying, well, let's take capability A, which is an efficiency capability. And what I'm trying to do is maybe just look to improve that capability, in other words, the outcome of it, which is improving the efficiency. So I'm trying to move this capability maybe from a level 1 maturity possibly to a level 2. So I still have the capability in current and future state, but I'm actually just altering its maturity. And similarly around the others, I might have capability C, which we said we're getting rid of. So even if you're getting rid of certain capabilities, you would still want to put them on here. So it could be currently sitting at a level 2, and basically, but within a certain amount of time, I'm going to make that capability obsolete. And similarly down the bottom, I think we chose level F as adding a 4x4 capability. You would add that in here. And by the way, you can build like milestones in. So there's a series of milestones that you might want to traverse as you're improving the maturity of that capability. These are the types of activities that you're going to be doing within the migration planning phase as you're looking at ways to string together and assemble components of your architecture so that they're in the right sequence.